Hello, peeps and creeps, and welcome to Fright Club. I'm Gav, he's Danny.
Hello.
We are the Fright Club NI, and this is a brand new episode of Monday Night Frights. On tonight's show, we're talking about the 2006 remake of The Wicker Man! Sadly.
Uh, uh,
This hers? Tell me!
Yes, I think it, yeah.
How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
I don't know!
And we're back with episode 7.1 of Monday Night Frights. It's a new season!
we're back. We're finally back. Did you miss us?
It's the
missed
7th
you.
season, Danny.
I know. Can you believe we've actually how have we been doing this for over 2 years now? And we're into 7 seasons. We've got articles coming out the wazoo. There's you know what? We're doing it's going really well.
We're doing alright, considering that this is just a hobby and we really don't make any money at this, and it's not a job. It's just a love, Danny.
Just a couple
It's
of
just a love.
goalies.
Do you know
Just
why
a
we
couple
do
of
it?
goalies talking movies.
Do you know why we do it?
Why do
For
we do
all
it,
of
Jeff?
those fans out there. For
You
all of our
guys,
peeps and creeps.
It's for all of you people out there in the great wide web,
The World Wide Web.
the world wide web.
So before we get into our discussion, our painful discussion
It's going to be
about this
people.
film,
I don't. Is it even going to be that long? To be honest, because
we'll make it long because
we'll
we're making
try.
jokes. We're
We'll
making
try.
jokes. We're having the crack.
Yes, we
This
are.
will probably be quite a negative episode, but in a good way. So
Yeah.
just bear with us, bear with us. And also, I'm sick. So if I cough or if there's a sudden cut, it's probably because I've had a coughing burst and I've had to cut it out of the video. So
Yes.
I apologize in advance.
Just doing a big cough. I'm trying to nurture and care from him from afar. So yeah,
I was just seeing your face, Danny, is nurturing. So you're like a big round baby, an adult baby.
Look at that big round baby man.
Yes, here we go. Here we start.
There we go.
This is the start of it.
Setting clean off.
Excuse me. Okay, so we're here to talk about the Wicker Man, but the shite one that was released in 2006.
Goddamn Americans taking something that isn't theirs and shitting on it.
Bastards.
Yeah.
It's a remake of the 1973 Robin Hardy classic, The Wicker Man. It's also a reimagining of the original novel, which is called Ritual. And the author of that was David Pinner. And it was released in 1967. So a very loose adaptation of that novel, but it's mostly a reimagining of the film from 1973, which we're screening.
We are
this
screening.
week.
We're putting on a screening on
Yes,
Friday.
Friday night. If you're in Northern Ireland or if you're further afield and you want to come over, come on ahead. But yeah, we're doing a screening of The Wicker Man in the Braid Film Theatre. So we're very excited for that. It's 50 years since it was released.
Yeah.
Not the exact date, obviously,
No.
but this year is its 50th anniversary, and we felt like we wanted to do that because it's a classic. It's a British classic. It's a horror classic. It's probably one of the most important British horror films of all time.
Yeah. It's also springtime.
And it's
the time
May's
for it.
just around the corner.
Yep.
It's almost May.
So yes, we're screening it this Friday in the Braid in Ballymena High.
It's only a fiver.
It's only a fiver.
So yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
Also, we're screening the final cut. Ooh.
The final cut. Which let's talk about cuts here, right? So
Yes.
we're screening the final cut.
What cut of this did you see?
I went to watch this. I didn't realize I was putting myself through the theatrical cut. The whole reason that I was happy enough to proceed with watching this was for the memes, and the main meme I wanted to see, the bees, wasn't even fucking in it.
Where be the bees?
Where be the bees? I didn't even get to hear Nicolas Cage's manic tone shout the bees, because in the shitty voiceover that we get in the theatrical cut, it doesn't even make reference to the bees. So we didn't even get to hear Nicolas Cage.
Well, not in that final scene that you're talking about, but
yeah, we will get to this
throughout the film. There is
yeah.
bee stuff happening.
There is bees. There's loads of bee bits, but not the bee bit. I want
not
the
main, bee bit.
I want the main bee bit, and I didn't get my main bee bit, and I'm really beat off about it.
Also, I've never seen this before, by the way. Have you seen this before?
I'm pretty sure I did see it around the time it first came out. I have a vague memory of watching it, and the main thing I remember is the bees, not the bees. But that's really it. Like I couldn't remember much else. Like going into it again, I was like, I really don't remember. And it's any wonder because I was even watching it this time around. I was like, I'm not invested. I
It's
was
really
zoning
forgettable.
out. I was just like the only bits that drew my attention is whenever Nic Cage was flipping the fuck out, and just because I was waiting for the bees moment, and I didn't get my fucking bees. But on seeing things, you should talk. More importantly, there's another exciting thing about the screening as well, which we've already announced on our Facebook. For anybody not on our Facebook, we're being joined. We're probably still going to say hello at the start as we normally do with all our screenings, but
a special guest.
We have a special guest.
We do. Not my cough. I hope.
Not your cough. I hope
my cough may still be there.
Maybe a little, but hopefully it'll be mostly gone.
Excuse me. Who are we being joined by? We're being joined by a very special person who is an expert on the film. Robert Simpson. He is a writer and an artist, a broadcaster. He has his own podcast. He's a film historian. Very, very talented man. And we invited him along because we know that this is one of his favorite films, to the point that he actually wrote a book on this film, which I have here. Keep talking, Danny, until I find the book. I should have had this prepared.
You have his wee bookie book sitting with you?
He will, I think, be selling some of these at our screening, and if not, you can check out Facebook. You can check out his website or check out his social medias. Where's the fucking book? There it is. There. So there it is.
Ooh, look at that lovely book.
So I think that was only released last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually looking forward to having a wee chat to him about that.
Are you going to get him to sign it?
It's already signed.
Oh, it's already signed.
I bought it. I think he signed it. He did. He definitely did. December 2021, actually, so just over a year. That's the book there. And he's going to be doing a short introduction for us. So we're really looking forward to that.
Excellent.
But I'm looking forward to talking about this shit film.
Let's talk about this shit film. We've talked enough about the fact we're putting. Did you know we're putting on a screening? Go to our screening. We'll see you there. But let's talk about the one we're not screening. Which thank fuck we're not screening it because oh god, what a slog.
So this film, it was released in 2006. I actually I've seen it. I've seen a section of the middle because I remember watching it on like Sky Movies or something or whatever, and just being like, "What is this shite?" I do remember watching it and quite enjoying it a little bit, but also thinking this is very different and just doesn't feel right. But when I watched it from start to finish this time, there's some things that I liked about it, but mostly I hated it. And also I sent you a wee message saying this is really bad.
Yeah.
And you just sent back saying it's so bad.
It's so bad.
But I will say, you know, what I do love about it is Nic Cage, and we'll get to Nic Cage a wee bit more in depth in his performance and stuff, but there has been a bit of a renaissance, a Nic Cage renaissance recently in the past few years, and obviously he's now just released in the cinemas was Renfield, where he plays Count Dracula, which looks really good. I haven't seen it yet.
Yes, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, he's been great in some of his recent performances over the past few years. And he really gives us all in this, to the point where it's kind of hilarious actually.
Yeah, it's manic, but then also sometimes a bit wooden. Kind of goes from trying to be like stoic, but when he's trying to be stoic, he's quite like wooden. And then when he's giving it stacks, calling everybody a bitch and not my god, then he fucking amps it up, and it's just too very. It's kind of jarring.
It's a film that you would sort of think, obviously it's a remake of a classic, so they never usually work, remaking a classic film like The Wicker Man, or we've talked about The Thing before, the remake of The Thing, which kind of. Well, no, sorry, it was a sequel. It's more of a sequel, or sorry, prequel, yes.
Yeah.
And we've talked about other kind of remakes in on the series before. It's never good to remake a classic because you're instantly going to be hit with negative, comments and negativity. No matter how good your film is, it's never good whenever you do it badly.
Yeah.
And the film kind of was never going to succeed, unfortunately.
No.
Some people may like it. There might be people out there watching this now saying, "You guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about. This is
Let us
amazing."
know in the comments.
And if that's true, absolutely,
Yeah.
we're all here for it. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the film. And if you did enjoy it, tell us why you enjoyed it.
Yeah,
There's
we'd love
some
to know.
things I did like about it. I
Yeah.
just feel like overall, it was always sort of kind of doomed from the start. I think the script isn't, it's not very well written. And some of the performances aren't the best as well. And which is surprising because, you have Ellen Burstyn in it as well, who's, a horror legend. Obviously she was in The Exorcist and, Requiem from a Dream, and Frances Conroy's a great actress as well. And there's a lot of weird performances in this film. And I don't know if that's because maybe the production time was really short, and they weren't able to kind of do many takes or something like that. But it just kind of feels like they, maybe just went, right, we've got that, let's move on to the next scene. We've got that, let's move on. And maybe I'm wrong there, but because I didn't really read much into the background of the production of the film, but it kind of just feels like it was rushed and there wasn't really a lot of love put into it. And I feel a bit bad saying that, but that's just what I feel like
That
after
was,
watching it. What about you?
yeah, I just find it really like hard going to get through. I ended up, we had a Lego bonsai tree to build, and I ended up like getting that out and building it while watching it. And I found myself just like really distracted by the little pink frogs for the little orchard trees
Here,
rather than
by the
watching it.
way, guess who's sponsoring this episode this week?
Lego,
Lego!
Lego. We wish. I mean, Lego. If you want to reach out and give us one of those Lego haunted houses,
Give us
please.
the money.
I'd just pay me in Lego. I'd be sweet with that. But yes, I found a real slog to get through. As you say, the performances were either like not enough or too much from everybody, not just Nic Cage. And there's just like the plot point, like it just seemed to be one kind of like, oh, it's twisting this way, and then no way, it's twisting that way, and it's kind of there just felt like there was too many red herrings for it to lead ultimately to the point we know it's going to get to. Like, I don't feel like it was adding anything overly fresh or new to the story. There was one aspect about like the origin of that summer isle that I kind of liked, but again, it was just kind of thrown in there to give us a bit of reason as to why they are there, and then it moves swiftly on to Nicolas Cage just shouting about not his religion and how everybody was bitches, and I was just like, all right, okay. And as I say, because I was waiting the whole time, thinking, you know what, it's worth it for that one glorious weaved bee helmet nugget, and I didn't even get it. I didn't even get it. So
You're still going on
ultimately,
about the fucking beast.
I'm not gonna stop, because that honestly, like, that has been the biggest letdown for me this year so far, that I didn't get to see that scene in the movie. I went after and was like looking up like
So
where was the scene gone?
what is that? So the one that we watched was on Amazon, is that right?
Yeah, so we
And it's
watched the
just
theatrical cut, is the one on Amazon,
right.
but it's um it's like an uncut version. There's like a uncut like unrated
Like a
version.
director's cut or something.
Yeah, that apparently
Okay.
has the scene where he gets his legs broke and he gets the bee helmet and then gets put into the Wicker Man. Whereas in this, we just get them taking his body up to the Wicker Man whilst there's a voiceover of him
Yeah.
getting his legs
Yeah,
broke.
yeah, yeah.
And it just like, I'm like,
That was bad, man. That was very bad.
yeah, like why not give us? I suppose we're now with a lot of the content that we sort of have now in terms of horror, and that like to see somebody get their legs broke or whatever is meh. Like that's child's play for us now. But 2006 was maybe a different sort of
Yeah.
approach
I
to
mean,
that's kind of violence, maybe. But just I want my goddamn bees, man. What
I
must
mean,
be?
I suppose it may have been a request at the studio that it was too violent or something, and they wanted to cut. But
Maybe
it was okay to have him, his voice be like, "Oh, my legs, my legs," but they didn't actually want to physically see it.
show him getting his legs broke. Yeah, and
So
then
that,
but then
yeah,
you look back, another kind of uh pagan festival movie that's more recent, Midsummer. You've got that scene with the two old people jumping off the cliff and then getting one of them survives and gets their head bashed in. And we get it. We watch that in all its gory detail, So there's obviously been quite a shift in terms of what sort of violence that we can show, unless it was maybe a rating thing as well.
But
What was the
I think
rating for
that's
this?
also kind of specific to the studio as well. So,
Uh,
A24 are
don't hold
very,
back.
very much they just make the films they make. They're not, there's very little censorship there with
Mm-hmm.
their filmmakers. But I mean, this feels like a studio movie as well. Just the pacing and how it's made, you can just tell it kind of feels like a studio movie.
Yeah, it's
It was written and directed by Neil LaBute.
Neil
Um,
LaBute.
Neil LaBute. He's a
Neil
wee beaut.
LaBute
So
is a
yes,
wee beaut.
he's a wee
We
beauty.
we fucking beaut.
Now I recently saw one of his films
Hmm?
called House of Darkness, which I really enjoyed. It was a sort of take on sort of the well, this is a wee bit of a spoiler, I suppose, but kind of Brides of Dracula.
Okay.
Starring Justin Long, who's fantastic in it.
Do you love some Justin Long? Yep.
Yeah, and I think it played at Grimfest actually. So, but yeah, I liked it. So I mean, I think he's a he's a talented filmmaker, but I don't know, just didn't
This
work for me.
this just didn't hit quite right. I was just
Mm.
looking there. So the film is considered a PG-13, which I suppose like what, 12A for us.
Mm.
But then there is, yeah, whereas the original Wicker Man is 18. Is
Yeah,
apparently in today's rating would be considered an 18. So yeah,
yeah.
it must have.
There's quite a lot of nudity in the original Wicker Man as well.
Not a
Um,
single daddy to be seen in this
there's
one,
no
mind.
daddies. There's
Not a
no daddies.
single solitary did was to be
There's not.
seen in this film.
There's not at all.
Um, nope, nope.
And to be honest, there's not a lot of. It's all very suggestive as well. I mean, maybe that
It's
was
all very
the.
suggestive. There's that one. There's that one scene when he goes into like Mistress Somerville's manor, and there's the wee man in the bed covered in the stings.
Oh, that was
That
weird.
was a bit kind of like what?
And the wee nudie
Uh,
woman. She's
uh,
covered with bees.
she's covered with bees, but again, you don't see the boobies are covered in beesies.
Mm.
She's got boobies.
She's got boobies. There, you seen some bees then?
You see some bees. I know, but it wasn't. It wasn't the
It wasn't
bees I
the
wanted to see. It
bees.
wasn't the bees. But yeah, like yeah, this film. It just you know what, and the symbolism and stuff in it, and their whole kind of message of like a matriarchal society and all that kind of stuff. It was all very on the nose for me as
Well, that's what
well.
I was going to say. In terms of the differences between this and the original script,
Mhm,
the characters in this are all female.
mhm.
Um, Sister Summer's Isle. It's called
The
Summer's Isle, whereas
Sister
the
Summers.
original movie it's just Summer Isle.
Yeah.
It's Lord Summer Isle, who's played by the great Christopher Lee.
Well, Christopher Lee,
Uh,
R.I.P.
I know, God love him. So it's Sister Summer's Isle, and everybody in any sort of position of power on the island is a sister, as a woman. So they went with that kind of vibe where they were saying, yeah, this is matriarchal. It's very much a female powered island, and all the men, any men that are there are just there to be a laborer or to be, just for the sperm, really, Danny. We need your
their
balls.
semen. We need the seed. We need your seed in order to carry on
We
the
do.
babies, to make the babies. And they're all. It's basically implied they'll have their tongues cut out too, which was like,
Yeah, yeah, they
what
do,
the
yeah.
fuck? Yeah, because I think is there not a bit basically where Nic Cage kind of asshole got no tongue, and it's kind of like,
He's like, no,
yeah,
can you not speak?
yeah,
But even that there was very much like, my God, how on the nose can you get?
yeah.
It's very
Everything.
like It's very on the nose. It's there's nothing really clever about the storytelling aspect of it.
No, no.
Um,
Even as I say, I kind of like the notion of how they get to Summer's Isle. They get their own wee island. They're driven out of their native lands and they settle first in Salem, but they're still persecuted there. So I'm like, okay, there's a connection to witches there. That's kind of cool, I guess. And then they go and live on this island, and it's kind of like, why did we not delve into that a bit more? Like it's kind of it's a reason given for their kind of existence and what the way they live, but it's so just kind of let's link it to Salem and witches, and that'll kind of do it. That covers it,
that'll
right?
explain it, yeah.
Yeah, that sort of covers the whole shtick. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying we have to have everything explained, because a lot of
No.
times, when it's not explained, it makes it more interesting. But it just kind of just felt like a throwaway backstory.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just like in the original 73 film, it's set on a Scottish island called Summerisle, and it's very pagan. That's the religion. And yes, they talk about religion in this, but the original is very heavy on them being non-Christians, because the character that's played by Nic Cage in this is played by Edward Woodward in the original, and he Sergeant Hoey, I think is his name. He's a devout Christian, like very, very religious man. And so they, that's a big uh big element of the original film. But in this, Nic Cage's character isn't, there's no mention of religion with him really. He, pardon me, his whole story is that he feels guilty for this, the death of this young girl that happened prior to the events of him going to the island, where, he stopped a car, and because he stopped the car, the girl and the mother died. There was a car crash, because he's a traffic officer in the beginning, and he ends up, this girl ends up dying, so he's laden with this heavy guilt, and it plays through the story a little bit, because it makes you think that his whole um reason for being here is that he wants to save this young girl that he's been asked to go to save.
Yeah.
But I still feel like it's a bit wishy-washy, like we
Yeah.
see flashbacks from the original crash, and I'm
Yeah.
kind of like, why are we seeing these flashbacks? I thought they were going to
It's
explain something, that maybe this was going to have some sort of connection, but there was
we
nothing
kind of
there.
there's so I think again with that there it's kind of like, oh, he's PTSD and he's trying to save this child because he couldn't save that child. But there's the whole kind of like hook at the start of the film where it's like, oh, they never recovered the bodies from that car, and it's like, okay, so they're maybe not dead, or something's happened. Then we get the reveal at the end, they're amongst the crowd of people who are putting them up in the Wicker Man. So, even that there, I was kind of like, so you set us up for this character to have like genuine reason and cause to go to this island, that all tied into his. They almost kind of give him too much of an excuse to go. Like he's PTSD as a result of not being able to save that wee girl, but also it turns out the wee girl that's missing on the island is his daughter. It's kind of like, let's throw like as much shit at this guy
There's
as
a
we can.
lot of, yeah.
And then you've got the psychological thriller element of it, of him constantly like unsure of what he's seeing is real, and is it the people who on the island fucking with him, or is it his own mind fucking with him? He doesn't really have a lot going for him, to be fair, and it's weird because he starts off the film like when he's it opens and it's like one cop in like a donut shop, coffee shop, whatever, and he's kind of being a bit sort of like laddish. And then Nic Cage is kind of being this quiet, strong type who then goes out on his motorbike. And I think they're trying to be like, oh, look how grounded he is. And then watch him unravel. But it's like, I don't have enough of him I don't see enough of him being that grounded before he's on the island losing his mind,
Yeah.
That opening though, the bit when the fucking lorry smashes in to the fucking car and just explodes. I was like, what the fuck? That was wild. All because again, I'm kind of like when they pull like he pulls them over because the wee girl's thrown her dolly out the window and he wants to give it to her, and then the truck crashes into them at the side of the road. I was just kind of again another one that I'm kind of like, how, why, and also how did the two people survive such a thing? I don't know. It's so as I say, let's throw all this mad shit and see what sticks to make the story progress.
Yeah, it feels like that was just a wee bit too convoluted. You know, for its own good, it was trying to be twisty and turny. Um, I almost would have preferred a straight remake.
Yeah,
Maybe I wouldn't have, but I don't know.
would have been better than what we got in this case.
Yeah, but
probably.
it kind of felt a little bit like a parody of the Wicker Man
Yeah,
in many ways, and I don't think it was supposed to be. I think it was supposed to be a dead serious film, but there were certain scenes in this where it felt like. Did you ever watch French and Saunders when you were a kid?
no, I've seen sketches and stuff, I've seen clips
There's
from
a
it,
very famous sketch that they did of Silence of the Lambs. It's a fantastic sketch,
that's ringing a
and
bell. I don't. I
yeah,
think
it's
I
a
think I
great
either have seen it or I know of it.
it's a great sketch. And it's from that scene where Jodie Foster goes down and sees all the patients, and then she comes to the end cell where Hannibal Lecter's at. It's a parody of that, but this kind of felt like they were doing a parody of Wicker Man in that style.
Yeah.
And it was weird. It was just very weird for me to watch it because I was kind of like, this is surely this is not supposed to be funny, but it was making me kind of giggle, and not in a sort of like, I suppose I was laughing at it, and I really have tried as I've got older to not be like that. I
Yeah.
try to give everything it's the respect that it deserves, but sorry, excuse me. Oh God, my fucking throat is gone. But I just felt like it was a parody. And as I was watching it, I kept thinking back to that Fridge and Saunders parody of Silence of the Lambs. I don't know what scene it was. I think it was the scene where he goes into the he first meets Sister Beach. The sort of quite big sister.
Yeah, the one that has the tavern.
She's quite. I wouldn't say she's a wee bit masculine. Like she's a bit of a.
She's the muscle to the operation.
She's a big girl. Yeah, she's a muscle. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She's got quite a deep voice and stuff. But there's a scene there where they're talking, and it's just that the dialogue's really bad, and it just felt like a French and Saunders written script or sketch. But what I will say is it is full of hilarious scenes, and we've spoken. It's not supposed to be hilarious, but it is hilarious. The basic plot is kind of the same, essentially the same as the original film. Cop is asked to come to this island to find this missing girl, and then he finds out that the people on the island are all kind of very strange and weird, and then he finds out that the girl isn't actually missing, that it's all been this trickery to get him there because he's going to be the sacrifice. So that kind of basic plot is the same, but as I said, the original film kind of is very heavy on the religious aspect, whereas this one is it still is, but
it gets it
maybe
more
not so much
towards the middle when he meets Lady Summers Isles. When he meets her and they're kind of talking about she's kind of putting forward why they do what it is they do, and he's like, well, that's not how my religion does it. That's not my God. And you're like, right,
well,
but
it's whenever there
can be other religions, mate.
but I think it's whenever she suggests that there could be sacrifices happening, which she does in a sort of very sort of coy way, and he's like, what what's going on here? The one thing I will say about this film, and I hate this in films, and I realize that this thing has to exist for tension and all that sort of stuff. But I hate it when people just don't ask questions.
Yeah.
Like there's so many times in this where Nic Cage's character, who is called Edward. Did you catch that he was called Edward and that Willow, his ex-fiance's surname was Woodward? Edward Woodward was the
Edward
original.
Woodward.
He's the original actor in the original movie. But anyway, he's talking to Willow, and instead of him just saying, now he does sort of say what's going on here a few times, but instead of them having a proper conversation, he doesn't really ever sort of ask her like to explain things. He's just like, oh, what's this and what's that, in a very roundabout way. Now, obviously, she's chosen not to explain things correctly because we find out that she's in on it and it's all been a ploy, which does make sense, but it's so annoying. Like, I was just like, will you just fucking ask her what's going on here? Man. And then obviously towards the end, he kind of does become a bit more questionable, and he starts to lose it a little bit actually towards the end. But
when he starts losing it, when he proper loses it, I was losing my shit like laughing.
We'll go through some of the scenes because I do want to talk about some of my favorite scenes.
Yeah. Do you have, just because we've come back, Gav, we've come back after all this time, and I'm sure everybody's waiting to hear. But have you got the figures for us?
I do have figures.
You do have figures.
I have figures.
The figures.
I'm just taking a wee sip of my Concovia.
Oh, Concovia. This episode is brought to you by
Convonia.
Convonia with clout. Oh no, that's Convonia with clout.
I don't know. If you've got a dry and tickly cough, this works. Sometimes it works. I've been drinking it.
Gav's getting
like regularly.
I'm
getting a wee bit fucked up here, so.
Oh yeah, look at him drink it down. The good stuff.
Anyway, I do have figures, Danny. I'm glad you asked.
Figures.
So, to nobody's surprise, this was a box office failure. However, it didn't lose as much money as you might think.
Oh.
The budget was 40 million. And it made approximately 39 million. So, kind of wasn't too far off its budget.
Yeah.
But it did get really bad reviews from critics and from kind of audiences alike, really. Now, I'm sure 16 years later, or 17 years, whatever it is, people will look back on it and be like, do you know what? It's a fun old movie. And it is,
I think
we spoke about Nic Cage's performance.
It's a meme now, like it has become part of
a meme
culture, like
And it's almost one of those things where I think people involved now can look back and probably go, yeah, that was a bit shit, but you know what? It was a bit of crack, and it's one of those things where because of meme culture, it has lived on.
It's prevailed, yep.
And you never know, maybe it will, be looked on and
classic.
Put on a fucking pedestal in another 20 years.
We missed the trick there, Gav. We should have done a Wicker Man double bill.
We should have.
Done a double bill.
We could have hired a beekeeper to come in. We would have had to show the director's cut though, because we would have had those bees.
We do need that bee scene. Nobody would want to come if we showed the theatrical cut.
So, I think one of the first memorable scenes of the film is when he first arrives on the island, and he meets the three women. And there's a man who's carrying like a sack. Something's happening in the sack. You never fully find out what's happening, but something's happening. But I will say the sack is leaking. So straight away something's fucked up, because the women are being really sort of laughing at him, and it's kind of like, why can you just not, like, why are you being bitches, like, do you know what I mean? These are all bitches already. And
is that any wonder he fucking loses bat and starts calling everybody bitches?
This is leading us down, a dark path here where he just starts calling everyone bitches by the end of the film. But I think one of the scenes that made me laugh, and I was just like, nah, this isn't for me, was the scene where he's on the pier. So when he finally kind of wants to get off the island again, he's trying to figure out what the hell's going on. He's looking for the girl, obviously. He's having no luck. He goes to the pier. He sees the plane that he landed on, and he wants to get to the radio. but he's waiting there for a little while, and he falls asleep. Now we don't know he's sleeping.
Yeah,
because they've tricked us. It's a dream.
It's a dream.
But he sees the little girl, or who he thinks is the little girl, underneath the pier, and so he. Fucking hell!
That was a laugh cough. That was a laugh.
He jumps into the water, but the way that he jumps, he doesn't just dive in. He does this sort of weird thing where he like. So he's trying to get under the pier, but instead of diving in and then turning and swimming under, he does this weird thing where he runs and kind of jumps and turns midair, and he's sort of doing this. It's weird. It's very weird. Anyway, he swims underneath, and he gets to the body, the little girl's body, and then he wakens up, and you realize, oh, it's just a dream. It's okay. It's just a dream. But the camera pans out, and he's holding her body.
It's another dream.
It's another dream within a dream. Do you know what they did? They went and fucking American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, they did.
They did that old trick.
They did
the double dream.
Yep, the double dream, the old spooky double dream.
But
oh god,
it's that moment when he wakens up from the second dream, and he's like, oh no, it's so bad, and you can tell it was probably done in one take, and they were like, right, we've got that. Let's move on to more important scenes. And then there was the scene. I think it was after that where he's walking through and he sees a guy putting logs onto like a trailer type thing.
Yeah.
And now this is the guy that doesn't speak, and he says, "Well, can you not speak?" But he's helping him put the logs on. But as soon as he helps him, they all fall off.
Yeah.
And then he turns, and that's when he says, "Oh, what? You can't speak?" And you can just tell that scene was just written because we needed to show a male character not speaking, and you're just like, is that the only way that you could have come up with that fucking scenario?
Yeah, and again, we don't really get anything about that again until later on when he goes running into the bar looking for help, and none of the men will speak. The men are all playing cards, but that's when we kind of get the reveal that their tongues cut out or whatever. But yeah, it's just, so and again, just goofy, goofy.
I thought the girl Willow, who's his ex-fiance, who wrote him the letter, to come over, she was just so fucking annoying, man.
She had this constant look of about to cry the whole time, but
she wasn't actually giving him any information.
No,
she was just like, being so cryptic, and obviously, yes, her character is in on it, so it works out a little bit in the end, but at the same time, she should have been a wee bit more cooperative and told him what was going on more and give him a wee bit more information, so that the payoff at the end would have been more of a payoff.
Yeah.
Didn't like the flashbacks. We mentioned it briefly. Didn't like the flashbacks to the opening scene of the child, because it was kind of just like, this is so unnecessary.
Yeah.
It nearly would have made better sense had there had been a genuine accident and the child died, and he had been playing on that for a little while, and that would have gave him more of a reason to do it rather than being sort of like a ploy.
Yeah.
I do have written down here, and I'm not sure what the scene is. I've just written in quotation marks, "How did it get burned?" Do you remember that dialogue?
Oh, is that not the
How
doll?
did it get burned? That's it. The doll.
Is that not he finds the doll because it's the doll from the opening, from the explosion at the start. Remember, he's got the little girl's dolly. That's why he's gone up. Right. He's pulled them over and all. So he finds this doll and he's like, "How did it get burned?" Because he's convinced it's the doll, or it's either the doll from that, or he's told that his daughter has been burnt. Was burned. She died in an accident, and that's what the Sister Rose, the teacher, tells him, is that Willow's trying to get over her grief of her daughter dying in a fire, and that's the reason they try to give to him. Which again, I'm kind of like, they want him to stick around, they want him to be a willing victim and all that shit, but at the same time, they give him a reason to leave as well, which again, I suppose ties into his willingness to be there. But it just, I was kind of like, again...
Well, they know that he can't leave, though, I suppose, as well.
Well, yeah, because see that fucking bit when he goes to go back down to the plane, to get the radio or whatever. He finds he finds the fucking pilot with his fucking eyes like fucking pulled out and the fucking reeds through his mouth like wee teeth and all, but he still kind of goes over and shakes him as if like, "Oh, are you all right?" I was like, "Oh, fucking hell!" And then he's like, "Oh," I was like, "Fuck me."
I know, mate. Oh, it's hilarious.
So
It's
fucking wild.
hilarious.
Honestly, see that bit whenever he goes into the school and he speaks to Sister Rose, and then he's like asking all the wee girls to pass the picture around and do they know her, and then he finds her name in the book in the register, and he opens the fucking school desk and the crow flies out and he's like, "What the fuck is this? You're all lying little bitches." I was like, "Fucking hell, Nic Cage, you're losing the bap."
I know.
Absolutely losing the bap.
But they really wanted to they really wanted to emphasize the fact that there's a lot of twins on the island. You know, they wanted to push that because twins are spooky.
Yeah.
So that was hilarious. That scene.
Oh my God.
That's when he starts losing it. After that, he starts to kind of, he walks out and then Sister Rose tells him that Willow's dead. Or sorry, not Willow, Rowan's dead.
Rowan, yep.
And then he starts just going for a wander around the hills, and it's like, are you actually going to do any work and investigate this, or are you just going to wander around and
That's the thing. He's not even a cop at this point. He's like on leave for his fucking PTSD and all, and he's just like going around flaunting his fucking his police badge and gun. But it's like, mate, you can't actually do that. That what you're doing is like illegal. Stop that.
Yeah, but I suppose I know. But America.
Yeah. Oh fuck. He's like, there is that whole bit where he was kind of saying about like, oh, this isn't right. This isn't, this isn't what you should be doing. Should be doing sacrifice. Should be killing kids. All this stuff. But like, it very much feels to me watching it. I was like, you're just trying to push your culture on there. Like, yes, human sacrifice isn't right, but it just felt like a whole fuck all y'all. You ain't American unless you live the American way. I was like, geez, fucking.
I know.
On the nose, so on the nose. It was a bit. They had a big stick and they were bashing us with it. Like,
it really was very much on the nose.
But I think we all do have a soft spot for Nic Cage, and we love like there's movies of his I absolutely love. Raising Arizona. I'm trying to think of others. Con Air. Like we love him, and his most, as you say, some of his most recent stuff has been
even Las
great.
Vegas.
Yeah, and Wild at Heart, some great movies. But this one, I think I love it because it's just Nic Cage at his mimiest. Like it just really, even the fucking hair.
I feel, and again, I could be wrong here. I feel like this was one of the first movies that set him off that path, where he became less of a film star, if you like, and more of a Nic Cage.
Yeah.
Nic Cagey, if that makes sense. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but he did go on a path where he made a lot of straight to video films, and he was dismissed a little bit by Hollywood, and he's admitted that recently.
Yep.
He turned a lot of jobs down, and he wasn't even be given jobs recently, and then he's now started to come back to doing studio films with Renfield. So I think maybe this was around the time where that started to happen.
Yeah.
And maybe it was because this film did so badly.
Do we blame Wicker Man?
Do
we blame
the Wicker Man? I don't know.
Do we blame the Wicker Man? Sure.
I mean, I think he really does give 100% in this film, particularly towards the end when he starts calling everyone bitches.
He starts fucking kung fu kicking people.
Mate, he starts kicking the shit out of women. That's not a funny. That's not something.
It's not funny.
We should be laughing at.
It's his way of whenever he fucking approaches your woman in the tavern and he just fucking.
I know.
It's just like, what are you doing?
No, what got me was at the very end when they circle him, and he's got the gun, and he's like, I will kill you. I will shoot you in the face, and he's taking no shit. But obviously the gun's not loaded, and they start coming towards him, and he just walks up and starts proper kicking him, like front kicking him.
It's even before that. There, he's what? He's knocked out the big bar woman, and then one of the other women that he's been speaking to quite a bit, the kind of young blonde one, fucking jumps on him, howling and screaming, and he fucking managed to get her off and gives her a kung fu kick into the wall, and she kind of see when she's passing out, and she's kind of like. She might as well have wee fucking birds going around her head. She's like,
she does. She hasn't fully decided if she's going to pass out or not pass out because she's like, and then she's like looking. It's like she's looking for the director to cut or to lie down or something. But yeah, it's.
Whenever he started just throwing the kung fu kicks about, that was me. I'd lost it. Like.
That
was the part where I was like, right, we're leading up, we're getting to the fucking finale here.
I started to enjoy it a bit more then because I was like, he's proper going Nic Cage here. Yes, bring it on,
full on, fucking throwing the kung fu kicks out, throwing digs and all. Like, yeah, you shouldn't hit women.
No, of course
but
not.
also just like fucking hell, it was wild.
To be fair though, the women are sacrificing.
They're sacrificing Waynes. As far as we're aware, they're sacrificing Waynes. Do you smack a woman who's going to sacrifice a Wayne?
Yes.
Depends on the Wayne. If the Wayne's a wee bastard, Wayne.
Well, true. There's a couple of Waynes I wouldn't mind.
It's all about context.
Getting rid of.
It's all about the context.
What I didn't expect in this film was this took me by surprise. I didn't expect William Wallace to show up with his wee half a blue face.
Oh,
Sister Summerside.
Sister Summerside with her fucking
nighttime, daytime, nighttime,
fucking yin yang.
Daytime.
It was fucking you know what I will say. So I feel like her makeup at that point was a bit goofy looking, but some of the like animal masks and animal costumes and stuff were quite cool. I liked Sister Rose had the bird outfit.
The crow.
I like the crow outfit. I like the bear outfit that Nic Cage ends up stealing from the tavern lady. I like the fish outfit that the tavern lady ends up wearing. What was her name? Sister Oak? Was she?
Nic Cage dressed up as a bear kicking one.
Him dressed up as a fucking bear. It's a bit whenever he strips off all of the bear costume to run away with Rowan, but he still has his wee bear shoes on. I got so distracted.
In case he gets a wee twig or something in his foot.
Oh, true. Still got to wear your wee bear shoes, but fuck. I that's one thing I enjoyed. I liked the costume design in this. I thought the costume design, bar Sister Summerside stupid fucking daytime nighttime face. I liked all the rest of the costume designs in this, and I quite like a lot of the set pieces as well. I think where they have the beehives and the fact the grass is cut into wee hexagonal like beehives, and then Sister Summerside's like her house when he's going through her house and going in the different rooms and he sees your man all covered in the welts from the bees things, and he's obviously some sort of like breeding man or whatever, and then your woman in the room with the bee body. And then it doesn't go into that room, but we get a cutaway where it's Sister Summerside in like this golden room in this big golden bed wearing a big golden gown. Everyone's just gold and honey looking. I was like, that's stunning. And I kind of wish we'd got more of that surrealist imagery through it, because like that there at that point we're starting to see that's when Nic Cage is really starting, like he's having full on meltdowns at that point. But I feel if we'd had maybe more of that kind of imagery throughout the film, we maybe would have descended into the madness wouldn't have hit quite as. The madness would have maybe made a bit more sense rather than almost seeming comical because it happens too quickly. You know, if we'd maybe had it more drip fed, we would have maybe been bought into it more. Whereas the fact that it just kind of happens like that, you're like, fuck, this is just wild and wacky, and I'm just laughing at it.
Yeah, and he should have had some normal interactions.
Yeah.
First, and then made that slower. You know, which kind of happens in the original one a little bit, as far as I remember. You know, it's not like the first interaction he has is with those three women who laugh at him and they're assholes to him, and you're just like, okay, like instantly, the first people he meets are being weird as fuck. This is just, you know, weird, but yeah, I do agree with you with the whole surreal thing. Like, I think that could have been an interesting thing if had they played into that a little bit more, and it was more interesting. Like the film I mean, it looks okay. It's there's not much of an artistic flair to it. It's quite generic. But I do feel like some of those scenes were nice, and um, there was just too much him wandering up hills for me.
Yeah, and
Like,
again, they've got some nice, like I said, some of the set pieces are nice, but they're quite underutilized. But I like the church ruin, but again, like there's really only two scenes where we get to see a lot of that. The rest of the time, as you say, he's
yeah,
just
like
kind of
the
walking
tomb
in
that
fields,
he goes into,
walking
yeah.
in the woods, you know.
And I think obviously the main thing with this is that the original is, it's a folk horror classic. It's based on the lore of folk horror, which is quite quintessentially British. Um, and they've Americanized it a bit for this, and it just didn't really work for me. I know folk horror is worldwide and it's not just British, but yeah, I didn't like it.
No, no.
So bear with me a wee second to take another sip.
There's a bear with you.
Bear with me.
Big sips. Big sips.
There we go. Yeah, so overall, we were not fans of this film.
No.
If you haven't already guessed that, I would have probably, to me, out of 5 stars, it would probably be like a 1.5, maybe a 2, just for
Yeah.
Nic Cage's outburst towards the end of the film, where he's kung
Yeah.
fu kicking women, and just getting louder and louder and louder and
He
louder.
gets so fucking loud, like when he's absolutely flying off the handle.
How'd I get burned?
Yeah.
How'd I get burned? That was brilliant.
It's when he's like, fucking bitches. I'll fucking kill you. He absolutely loses the right. It's the kung fu kicks, or the kung fu kicks made up for it just a tiny bit, not getting to see the B helmet, but I'm still fucking raging that there was no B helmet in
I think
that version
I think
watched.
it's definitely worth watching. Like, I wouldn't
Try
tell
and get that uncut version.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Don't
tell
watch the
anybody
theatrical release.
not to watch it, because I think there's enough entertainment in it.
Yeah.
Whether it be ironic or whatever you want to look at it, it's entertaining enough to watch it. And I think Nic Cage's performance is definitely worth it, but the film is a big letdown, particularly if you try to compare it to the original, which it's hard not to, because it's basically a remake. But yeah, not a fan of it. Looking forward to screening the original this weekend.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited. I'm excited because I'll be able to compare the Nic Cage one to the OG one, and I'm gonna be very pleasantly surprised how much better it is.
I hope so. Like, the original is a very weird film, and it's 50 years old, so you have to always remember that this was made 50 years ago.
Is there a B helmet?
No.
Fuck! God damn it!
There's boobies though.
Boobies.
There's dancing naked ladies, and Christopher Lee wears a dress. So,
you know what? I can dig it. Christopher Lee, and is it not a kilt? Is he not in like?
it's a kilt. It's a kilt.
Yeah.
No, he wears a kilt during the movie, and then at the end he wears like a
ceremonial gown.
Ceremonial gown is probably the best way to say it, but he's also wearing like a wig, and he's got face paint on, and
excellent.
He's not William Wallace, but he's a bit more ghostly looking. But the Wicker Man scene at the end is definitely scarier in the original than it is in the Nic Cage one.
Excellent.
So look forward to that. But I think that is all the time we have now. My throat is absolutely fucked.
It sounds raw.
It is
raw, boy.
It's absolutely raw. So I need to go and get some fruit juice and something in it to
rest
lubricate it. I know. But thanks for joining us for our season 7 premiere. And I'm sorry it was more of a sort of funny negative episode. We just thought that we would cover this because it ties in with our screening, and it originally wasn't going to be the film we were going to talk about, but it just played out that way. We were a wee bit behind schedule, and we wanted to start a few weeks ago, and then I was away in London and I got sick, and fucking hell, life happens.
You've been a busy boy, Gav, and then you got your sickies and all, but it's okay. We're back. We're here.
We're back.
We've made it.
We will be back in 2 weeks with another episode of Monday Night Frights. In the meantime, always, you have to go and follow us on Twitter.
Please.
You have to follow us on Instagram. You have to go and like us on the Facebook.
Got the face.
the Facebook. Please tell your horror pals about us. We'd love to try and really push hard and get more followers on YouTube as well. We don't make any money at this, so if you want to go ahead and support us financially by dropping us a couple of quid, then you can do that on the website. I'll put the link in below. But the best way to support us is, as I said, just follow us on all the socials and subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Yeah,
and just
like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Yep. Anything else, Danny?
Hit the bell icon
Hit
if
the
you
bell
haven't
icon.
already.
Please do.
And yeah, no, that's all from us. We'll hopefully see a few of you on Friday if you can make it down to the screening. Do come over and say hello to us, and then if
Please
you can't
do.
make it, just comment on the video being like, wish I was there.
Yep.
That'd be nice too. But yeah,
that's it. So until 2 weeks time, stay safe, take care, all the best. Bye.
bye buddy.
Not the bees!
Not the bees!
Not the bees!
How to get burned!
My legs!